Hello and welcome to the Grow Podcast. We are so happy that you are here. I'm Ashley, your host through the segments of the grain portion of this podcast. And just as a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by the Landus Grow Solutions Center. And today on the podcast, we have a really fun opportunity to get to talk to Terry Johnston, and he is here on behalf of Farm Rescue. And if this is your first time ever hearing about Farm Rescue, I'm really excited for you because we're going to dive into all about this organization, what they do, what they offer. But it is something I think for our listeners, if you are any way, shape or form correlated with the agricultural industry, it's something that's very important for, our customers, for any farm family, or ranch families as well. So we have Terry with us today. So Terry, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. Hey, Ashley, thanks for having me on the podcast today. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about farm rescue. I love doing that. That's my job. And so spreading the word is very important, and we're happy to be here, and thanks for having us. So I'm Terry Johnston. I'm the development officer with Farm Rescue. I've been here just about a year, a little over a year actually, and very pleased to be part of the Farm Rescue team. Farm Rescue is a nonprofit organization. We were started up in North Dakota back in 2005 by our founder, Bill Gross. He grew up on a farm and ranch there in North Dakota and always had a passion for helping folks. And so he started up this organization to help neighbor helping neighbor kind of is the theme of our organization. Now, our neighbors come from a farther distance. Some of our volunteers are scattered all over the United States, but the idea is to help people in their time of need. And I know we're going to talk more about what that looks like in a little bit. We've started in North Dakota and now cover 8 states, and then we'll be joining our 9th state very soon. Since our founding, we've helped 1,000 families.
Wow.
So we're I would say proud of that, and I'm glad to help folks, and we're looking very much forward to helping the next 1,000 families for sure.
That's crazy. And we're going to dive deeper into this, but maybe give some perspective. So it looks like you all have staff, you have volunteers, and then you have a board of directors as well, if I'm getting at that. Talk a little bit more about how, those pieces kind of work together just to create the organization that it is.
Yeah, so our Bill Gross, our founder and president, is still the leader of the board. His position is volunteer. His day job is a 747 pilot for UPS.
Wow.
So he flies all over the world. That's his day job. And then we have a volunteer board of directors that, of course, looks after governance and kind of guides us through our processes, and also they review applications as they come in.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a volunteer portion. We do have a paid staff. I believe there's 9 of us now, 7 full-time, 2 part-time, and we're kind of scattered out around the Midwest, so to speak. And then we have a network of volunteers of just over 600, I think, is the latest count from 49 states. So they come from all over, all walks of life. We do have a lot of farmers, both current and retired, and also John Deere employees. John Deere is one of our main sponsors, and so we get a lot of those folks that like to help. Some are retired, some are still working, and they're taking vacation to come help us. And then folks from all different walks of life like to come and help and make sure these families get through a rough patch.
Very cool. Okay. And then when it comes to the different kinds of assistances offered by Farm Rescue, dive into this a little bit, because as I alluded to before we started recording, I didn't know you offered so many different assistances. So dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, we like to help as much as we can. So definitely harvesting, and we harvest all kinds of crops since we're in 8 different states and soon to be 9. So North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana, and then Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Illinois, and soon to be Wisconsin. So wide range of crops raised there. So, wheat and barley and peas and sugar beets, there's a lot of different types of crops that we help with. So we do planting of those different kinds of crops. So we've got, of course, air seeders and that sort of thing for the small grains. And then we've got regular planters for corn and soybeans and so forth. We harvest those same crops. We do commodity hauling. For example, right now we have an Operation Hay Lift going on due to the wildfires that were out west there in late February, early March. So we're hauling hay to to farm and ranch families in need with those trucks. We also make hay, so we've got tractors and balers. So if the family needs assistance with making hay, we can do that. And so, a lot of different things. And then livestock feeding, mainly cattle. We like to pitch in and help with chores too, as whatever we can do to help them, through a tough time.
Okay. Well, and if our listeners haven't ever had the opportunity to see, you guys do a really, really great marketing job too, as well, when it comes to your equipment and things like that. And just all of the details on, especially like I've seen the combines before. It's just so cool to see all of the, promotion that's on even just the equipment.
Exactly. So we have lots of awesome sponsors, and we like to make sure that the folks we're helping know who's helping pay for those costs. We're 100% donor driven. So our sponsors and individual donors are so important to us, and we like to thank them any way we can. And like you mentioned, that you're going to see stickers all over our pickups and tractors and combines and semis and all that to just recognize those folks that are giving back to these farm families and willing to help pay for it. It's expensive. Obviously, equipment's very expensive. We have multiple tractors and planters and pickups and semi trucks and different types of trailers and, of course, combines. And so we own, rent, or lease all that equipment. And so we do like to brag on our sponsors. They're awesome.
That's crazy. So kind of moving into that, talk about just like the sheer importance of not only the donors, as you just mentioned, but just the volunteer base is crazy to have, 600 people potentially that are in a loop that might say, I could do that. Or how do you become a volunteer? And then how are those volunteers maybe like sort of drafted? That's not the right word, but like, how are they moved into different situations where needed? Yeah,
great question. So volunteers, if people are interested in volunteering, the best thing to do is go to our website. It's farmrescue.org. And there's a simple application that folks can fill out there. And it's going to ask them things like, what's your skill level with a tractor or a planter or combine? What are the kinds of things that you're comfortable helping with? What would you like to learn more about in order to be a volunteer? How many days a year is good for you? Geographically, where would you like to be? How long can you stay? And so this is all in a database that we have folks working on every day.
Yeah.
And so when a need arises, an application comes in, then we do a farm visit, and we sit down with the family, figure out whether it's a choring plan, a cropping plan, whether it's planting or harvest, and then we put a call out to the volunteers basis that how they fill things out, who's available now, geographically, where do they want to work, and we can sort through our database and kind of narrow it down pretty quickly. Yeah. And then we have kind of team leaders, I guess we'll call them, and those are our more experienced volunteers. And then we'll have 2 or 3 others. Maybe they're less experienced or they have different skill sets. So we try to match them together. And so they all work really well together, and it's fun to watch. Our volunteers are just the most awesome people. They're so compassionate. They're empathetic. They're hardworking. They're selfless. And they just want to help the family, get through whatever they're going through. And so, and that can vary. So it can be an injury. It can be an illness, like a surgery type of a situation. It can be a natural disaster. So drought, flood, wildfires we talked about. So there can be a lot of different reasons that a family, needs help getting through a tough time. And neighbors do still help in. We don't want to preclude or eliminate the fact, so we can kind of help coordinate those folks. In fact, that kind of helps the family out because they're truly trying to focus on recovery, right? So they're picking up after a storm, or they're dealing with maybe medical visits, or working with contractors or construction after a tornado. Yeah. And so they're a little overwhelmed when they're going through something like that. So we can come in and kind of help alleviate some of that stress, maybe even direct some of the neighbors into help that maybe have extra equipment or want to be part of the effort. So it's a lot of fun. I hope everybody out there gets to meet one of our volunteers at some point, because they are awesome.
I can't imagine. And I mean, I think to your point, right? So when it comes to farming in general, I think, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this or not as a farm kid and as a farm wife, but there's just so much emotion and pride tied into what we do, right? And so, just for you guys to come in and not only be able to do that, but also to be able to coordinate everybody else who's like maybe trying to help, just to take that emotion out of it has got to be awesome. So
it is, yeah.
So talk a little bit about, if a farmer themselves is going through something, how can they say, hey, I need help? Or, probably the likely stance is, Mr. Neighbor sees, this family is going through a rough time. How can somebody else get nominated or nominate themselves?
So go to farmrescue.org and you can fill out an application there, either anonymous referral or an application for yourself. It's very simple. It's a very easy process, and somebody will reach out right away and get more details and see how we can help and what's needed and so forth. So we try to make it very easy. And our website has lots of other information. So if you want to donate, you can go there for that, or referring a family, or volunteering, or signing up for help yourself. So there's lots of videos, testimonials there, both from the folks that we've helped, as well as our volunteers, and even some of our sponsors have put together videos because they like to tell people, hey, here's why we want to help these families, and here's why we support Farm Rescue. So there's a lot of information there.
Very cool. So you alluded to that you might be adding a new state here this year, but tell us what's new or what's coming maybe down the pipeline. So go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, so we're very pleased to say that we're going to be into Wisconsin this year, offering services there. That'll be our 9th state. Officially, July 1st is when we're gonna begin offering services there, and so we're very excited about that. I mentioned that we are taking part of this Operation Haylift that is ongoing. So as long as there's a need for those folks, so we're doing that in Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. Oklahoma and Texas are not officially states we serve, but when we realized there was a need and we had volunteers willing to drive those semis, and we had folks calling us offering to donate hay, and so we just started putting things together, and we started
puzzles together.
So I don't know, probably 30, 40 families we've helped so far.
That's crazy.
With hauling hay. We have a new executive director coming on board. We're very excited about that. He's going to start in mid-June, Nate Clark. So be watching for more information about that. He's a former John Deere employee, worked for the foundation and so forth. So he's got a lot of experience, and he'll be a great addition to the Farm Rescue team. We're excited about him coming on board. So.
Well, and I want to ask you too, before we move on, you're clearly very passionate about being able to work for this organization. So I'd love to hear just from your perspective, what's your favorite part about working here or working at Farm Rescue?
That's a great question. And I never know how to answer that because there's a lot of reasons why I want to do this. So I'm a farm kid. I grew up on a farm here in Iowa, grain and livestock. And so I've had a passion for agriculture my whole life. I've got an ag business degree. I've spent my career in agriculture, and just fortunate to know somebody, actually a former coworker, is the one that reached out to me and told me about Farm Rescue and the fact that they were looking for another person. And so I just feel very fortunate to even be part of this because it's such an awesome opportunity to be able to give back to these farm and ranch families that many of us in agriculture have served over the years in other capacities or sold them equipment or whatever. And so be able to do something for them at no cost to them, right? We're not asking them for anything. Just ask us for help, please. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need help, because that's what we're here for. Gets us out of bed every morning. It's what our volunteers love to do. We have the equipment to do it. In fact, we've got planters not moving. Well, there is rain delays, but we have extra capacity. So even yet this spring, if somebody needs some help, we've got these awful storms that keep moving through. Oftentimes there's equipment that gets destroyed or whatever. So don't hesitate to reach out. We love to help folks. I think probably the most impactful thing to me is our volunteers and how selfless and compassionate. I mean, when we come to help a family, they're struggling, right? They're going through a tough time. And so there's a lot of hugs and there's a lot of, praying together, whatever it is to help them through, whatever it is they're going through. And these folks just do it like a champ. And they're happy to do it. They're chomping at the bit. Yeah. We have people calling us saying, hey, we haven't been on a case for a while. Have you got any opportunity for us to serve? Because we really want to help. And so our volunteers are just the most awesome. And I've been involved in extension council and commodity groups and silos and smokestacks. I serve on a board there, but these people are just amazing. Yeah. I'm so privileged to be able to work with these folks to serve these families. It's awesome.
For sure. Well, as we kind of begin to wrap up here, I just wanted to make sure, is there anything else you want to make sure that our farmers that are listening or others that might be in agribusiness know before we wrap up?
Well, it is important to refer folks to us because, as I mentioned, people sometimes don't feel like they should ask, or if Farm Rescue helps me, then maybe there's another family that's maybe needs it a little worse,
Yep.
and so they don't want to put us out, and so please don't think that way. Also, we have a pretty robust social media outreach. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Please follow us on those and share this information out through your networks so that other people can know about us.
Yeah.
One of the biggest reasons we can't help more people is people just don't know about Farm Rescue. And we want every family in all the states we serve to know, so that if something happens in their community, either they can reach out themselves or for another family that they know could use a helping hand through a tough time. And so I would say, make sure that you follow us on social media and check out our website. It's farmrescue.org.
Very cool. And just because even I didn't know, and I had heard of Farm Rescue, maybe just cover one more time the different assistances that you do offer.
Yeah. So we have planting and harvest and haying, hay hauling or commodity hauling, whatever that looks like, and then livestock feeding.
Okay.
And again, it can be an illness, an injury, a natural disaster, and even if it's not a direct principle, maybe it's a child that's injured or sick and needs to be taken to appointments. I mean, that all takes folks away from their critical work. And obviously there's restrictions. There's only so much time to get the crop in or get it out or take care of those cattle. So please allow us to come in and help you through that, let you focus on recovery, getting better or rebuilding, whatever it is, because it's what we love to do and it's why we're here.
Very cool. Well, hopefully you as a listener have learned some really great things about Farm Rescue today. And I really would encourage you to head to their website. I did a little digging before this episode, and they have some really good content on there and some really great, if you have a question, it might be underneath their frequently asked question page. And you can just learn a little bit more about, how the organization got started. And I think you've heard today the heart behind it, but just a little more there too. So thank you, Terry, for coming to talk to us today.
It's my pleasure, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate getting to talk with you. You're very passionate, clearly, about what you do. But as I mentioned before, as a farm kid, as now a farm wife, there's a lot of emotions in farming. And so you guys are just a real awesome place to have farmers be able to go to when they need help and support. Well, and to our farmers listening, as a reminder, we have a USDA acreage report coming out on Friday, June 28th. So that'll come out at 11 a.m. our time. And so just be sure, this is one of those reports that is a big one. It's going to give us another look at the acres, corn versus beans versus wheat versus all the things. So a big report. You're going to want to have some more, probably offers working ahead of that. And so definitely be in contact with your, grow grain marketing advisor or your local location to get some offers working for either the old crop that you've got left or, definitely thinking about new crop as well. So thanks for listening. Make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next time.
What a great organization. Helping families in need like ours, it's a godsend.
When an unexpected crisis strikes, Farm Rescue is here to help. Assistance is available free of charge to farm families experiencing a major injury, illness, or natural disaster. Our volunteers and equipment are ready to spring into action with planting, haying, and harvest support. If you or someone you know could use a helping hand, visit farmrescue.org today.